Have you ever had that quiet feeling that something's changed in the way people react to you, but you can't quite put your finger on it? Maybe a hug that used to come freely now turns into a polite nod. A conversation that once flowed easily suddenly feels shorter. You start to wonder, did I say something wrong? Did I do something off? And sometimes the hardest part is that no one says anything. They just shift. A little more distance here, a little less warmth there. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know this. You're not alone, and there's nothing wrong with you. But as we get older, certain habits tend to sneak in without us realizing it. Habits that may have started out harmless, comfortable even, but over time, they quietly shape the way others see us. And not always in a good way. That's why we're having this conversation today. Because sometimes what people don't say matters just as much as what they do. And it takes courage to shine a light on those blind spots. But the good news is, once you see them, you can shift them. You can carry yourself with even more grace, warmth, and self-respect than ever before. So let's begin. Just you and me here. No judgment. Just an open heart and a willingness to grow. Because no matter what age you are, there's always room to become even better. Not for others, but for yourself. Let's talk about something that might seem small but speaks volumes. How we take care of ourselves. I'm talking about personal hygiene. Now, I know at first that can sound a little harsh, but stay with me. I'm not referring to big, obvious neglect. I mean the subtle things. Wearing the same shirt 3 days in a row because it's comfortable. Letting your hair go unbrushed because, well, who's coming over anyway? Maybe there's a faint odor you've gotten used to, but others notice the moment you leave the room. What's really going on isn't about soap or shampoo. It's about how we carry ourselves. When we're younger, these habits are automatic. We shower, we dress up, we brush our hair without even thinking. But as we age, energy dips. Routines slip. And some of us start to feel like, what's the point? No one's paying attention anymore, right? Except they are. The people around you, your children, your neighbors, your grandkids, they pick up on these details even if they never mention it. They won't say, "You look like you haven't changed your clothes," because they love you. They don't want to hurt your feelings. So instead, they back up a little. They visit for less time. They might even skip the hug. And you're left wondering why. But here's the truth. When we stop showing care for ourselves, others unconsciously stop showing it too. Not because they mean to, but because they respond to the message we're sending. That maybe we don't value ourselves the way we used to. And that's powerful. Because when we take even a few small steps, put on a fresh shirt, brush our hair, trim our nails, we send a different message. One that says, I'm still here. I still matter. I still respect myself and I respect you. And you know what? People feel that. They may not say it out loud, but they respond to it. With closeness, with warmth, with dignity. Now, let's talk about something a little trickier. It's something many of us don't even realize we're doing until someone avoids us or cuts a conversation short. I'm talking about speaking without a filter. Maybe it happens at a family gathering. You notice someone's gained weight. You mention it. Or you comment on a niece's parenting style. Maybe you tease a grandson about his hair or his clothes. You laugh and say, I'm just being honest. Or, back in my day, people weren't so sensitive. You mean no harm. But the room gets quiet. Someone looks away. And later you wonder why they didn't stay long. Here's the thing. As we get older, we often feel we've earned the right to say what we think. And in some ways, that's true. There's a freedom in getting older that says, I've lived enough life to speak my mind. But honesty, when it's not wrapped in kindness, can feel like criticism. Especially to those younger than us, who are already navigating a very different world. One full of expectations, pressure, and comparison. They don't tell you they're hurt. They just start keeping their distance. You don't need to silence yourself, but it helps to pause. Before you speak, ask yourself, is this helpful? Is this kind? Would I want someone saying this to my grandchild? If the answer is no, then maybe it's a moment to simply listen instead. Because when your wisdom is wrapped in compassion, people lean in. They listen. They feel safe. But when it feels like judgment, they shut down, even if your heart was in the right place. And that leads us to something surprisingly visual but just as meaningful: what we wear. You might not think much about your clothes anymore. Maybe you've had the same jeans for 20 years. Maybe your shirts are a little snugger than they used to be, or a little too loose. The colors have faded. The shoes have lost their shape. And you think, so what? I'm comfortable. I've earned it. But here's what most people won't say to your face. What you wear tells others how you see yourself. It's not about fashion or keeping up with the latest styles. It's about showing that you're still present, still aware of how you show up in the world. Imagine going to a job interview in the same outfit you wore 25 years ago. It wouldn't feel right, would it? The same idea applies to everyday life. As your body changes, as the world changes, your wardrobe should evolve too. Not for vanity, but for dignity. When you wear something that fits well, that's clean and current, it says, I care about myself today, not the self I was decades ago, the self I am now. And when people see that, they don't always comment, but they feel it. They see someone who hasn't given up, someone who still takes pride in their presence. And that kind of self-respect, it's magnetic. These first few habits, how you take care of yourself, how you speak to others, how you dress, might seem simple, but they're powerful. They speak louder than you think, and often they shape how others feel in your presence, not because of what you say, but because of what you show. Let's keep this conversation going, because there's more we need to talk about. And once you start seeing these small shifts, not as criticism, but as opportunities, you'll realize how much strength, grace, and connection is still within your reach. So now that we've opened the door to how we carry ourselves, from hygiene to conversation to what we wear, let's talk about something that can quietly erode even the closest relationships without us realizing: taking over conversations. You've probably been in a group setting where someone starts telling a story, and before they can finish, you've jumped in with a better version. Or maybe you've caught yourself explaining something you've experienced before, just trying to help. But before long, you've been talking for 10 minutes and no one else has said a word. It's easy to do, and it often comes from a genuine place. You've lived through so much. You've learned. You've survived. You have so much to share, and that's a gift. But sometimes, in the process of giving that knowledge, we forget to make space for others. We turn conversations into lectures. And what started as connection slowly becomes one way. The trouble is, most people won't tell you it bothers them. They'll nod. They'll smile politely. But inside, they start retreating. They'll think twice before calling. They'll keep conversations shorter. And they may never explain why. People want to feel heard. That never changes, no matter what age we are. So here's a gentle reminder: you don't need to say less. You just need to listen more. Try holding back just a little. Let the silence linger for a moment longer than feels natural. Ask a question instead of offering a solution. Wait to see if someone wants advice before jumping in. You might be surprised how much more connected you feel when you create room for others to speak. Especially with younger people, grandchildren, nieces, neighbors, who may already feel unsure of how to bridge the generation gap. When they sense you're really listening, not just waiting for your turn to talk, something shifts. They relax. They trust you. They open up. And that's where real conversations happen. Another habit that sneaks in more than we think is something we often say jokingly, but don't realize the harm it can cause. Complaining about kids these days. Now, I get it. It's frustrating sometimes. You see someone staring at their phone during dinner, and you think, back in my day, we actually talked to each other. Or you hear a younger person's opinion and shake your head, they just don't get how the world works. You might even laugh and chalk it up to the generation gap. But here's what happens on the other side of that joke. To your children, your grandchildren, or even the younger folks in your community, those comments don't feel lighthearted. They feel like rejection. Like you're saying, your world doesn't matter. Your struggles aren't real. Your choices aren't valid. And when people feel that, they start to protect themselves. They stop talking about their passions, their ideas, their pain. They keep conversations surface level because they're afraid of being dismissed or criticized. And before you know it, the distance between you isn't just generational, it's emotional. You don't have to agree with every new trend or mindset. That's not the point. But curiosity can go a long way. The next time you feel the urge to say, they don't know what hard work is, try asking, what's it like finding a job in your field right now? Or, what do you think is the biggest challenge for people your age? That one shift, from judging to asking, can open doors you didn't even know were closed. Because let's face it, every generation thinks the next one has it easy. But connection doesn't come from comparison. It comes from respect. And when younger people feel that from you, they won't just tolerate your presence, they'll seek it out. Not for validation, but for understanding. And that's a bond worth building. Now let's turn our attention to something that seems tiny but speaks volumes. How we behave in shared spaces. You know, places like waiting rooms, grocery stores, buses, even church pews. As we get older, our energy shifts. We might move more slowly. We take our time. Maybe we stop in the middle of an aisle to find our list. And that's perfectly okay. But here's the thing most people won't say to your face. When we stop noticing how our actions affect others in public, it can come across as inconsiderate. Not because we're rude, but because we're distracted. We're thinking about our task, not about the flow of people around us. You might not hear a complaint, but people notice. They walk around you. They avoid eye contact. Or worse, they start assuming that older people don't care. And that's not the legacy any of us want to leave behind. Being mindful in public spaces doesn't mean rushing. It means awareness. If you're stopped in an aisle, try keeping to one side. If you're on a call, keep your voice low. If you're playing a video while waiting somewhere, pop in a pair of headphones. These are small actions, but they send a powerful message. I still care about how I affect the world around me. And you know what? That message doesn't just shift how strangers treat you. It shifts how your own family sees you. Your grandchildren notice. Your neighbors notice. Even your friends notice. They see you not just as someone growing older, but as someone still fully present, still aware, still respectful, still kind. And now let's talk about something many of us don't even realize we do, but others pick up on quickly. Oversharing medical issues. It often starts innocently. You're chatting with someone and you mention your blood pressure or your last doctor's visit. Then it turns into a detailed recap of your medication schedule or every ache and pain you've had this week. And before you know it, the conversation feels less like a visit and more like a health report. Now listen, your health matters, and you deserve to be heard. But when every conversation starts to orbit around illness or discomfort, it quietly shifts the energy, especially for younger family members who may not know how to respond. They want to connect with you, but not always through the lens of worry or helplessness. And here's the part many people won't tell you. When your health becomes the centerpiece of every interaction, people start to retreat. Not because they don't care, but because it becomes emotionally heavy. They may feel guilty for not having solutions, or they simply feel overwhelmed. That doesn't mean you can't talk about your challenges, but balance is key. Maybe mention your doctor visit, but then ask your grandson about his soccer game. Share your concern, but also talk about something you're looking forward to, a new recipe, a book you're reading, a flower blooming in your yard. You're not just your symptoms. You're still a person with thoughts, memories, joys, humor, and stories. And when you share those, you make space for lightness, for laughter, for connection. Because let's be honest, life is heavy enough. When you become the person who still finds a smile in the small things, who brings warmth instead of worry into the room, you become someone people love being around. Not out of obligation, but because you lift their spirits. And that is a powerful gift, especially as you grow older. Not because you hide the hard things, but because you show that even through them, your spirit is still strong. As we've shared so far, many of these habits don't come from bad intentions. Often they come from comfort, fear, or simple routine. But that doesn't mean they're harmless. And one of the most surprising ones might be the way we hold on to old beliefs, not because they're wrong, but because we've stopped questioning if they still serve us. You see, over the years we form our values, our worldview, the way we make sense of life. We pass those ideas down. We teach our kids, we build businesses, we build families, and for a long time, those beliefs work. They guide us. They protect us. But the world keeps turning. It changes fast. Conversations shift. New research, new ideas, new ways of thinking come into the picture. And here's where it gets tricky. The beliefs we once held so tightly, with pride, can turn into barriers if we never stop to re-examine them. Have you ever heard yourself saying things like, "That's just how it is," or "Back in my day, we didn't need all this nonsense"? Maybe even, "I don't care what the experts say. I know what's right." It might feel like standing firm in your truth. But to the people around you, especially those from younger generations, it can feel like resistance. It can feel like a wall they can't climb no matter how gently they try. The sad part is most won't say anything. They just stop trying. They stop sharing. They avoid sensitive topics. And before long, you're having the same shallow conversations over and over, never touching the things that really matter. But there's a better way. You don't have to abandon your values. You don't need to agree with everything. But what if you made room at the table for ideas that feel unfamiliar? What if you asked, "Tell me more about what that means to you," instead of, "That's ridiculous"? What if, instead of drawing a hard line, you softened just enough to let someone else explain their side? And here's the truth most people won't say: your willingness to listen, to stay curious, makes you even more respected, not less. It shows humility. It shows strength. It shows that you're still growing, and that at any age is rare and beautiful. Sometimes the beliefs we cling to are really just fear in disguise. Fear of becoming irrelevant. Fear of being wrong. Fear that if we let go of something old, we'll lose a piece of who we are. But growth doesn't erase your past. It honors it by asking, "What can I still learn?" And speaking of awareness, let's talk about something so simple. It's easy to overlook: how we move through space. You might not think twice about stopping in a hallway or standing in the middle of a grocery aisle to read a label. Maybe you shuffle a bit slower now, or you walk with a friend and drift across the sidewalk. None of this is intentional. You're just going about your day. But here's the part that people won't say out loud. When we stop being aware of how we move in shared spaces, others notice. They won't scold you. They won't complain. But they'll shift away. They'll sigh under their breath. Or they'll start dreading outings together. Not because they don't love you, but because they feel like they have to manage you. That hurts to hear, I know. But again, this isn't about moving faster. It's about being present. You can walk slowly and still be thoughtful. You can take your time and still be aware of your surroundings. Just a little more mindfulness, staying to the side, being conscious of crowds, noticing when others are trying to pass, can change everything. Because being considerate doesn't require youth. It requires intention. And when people see that you still carry yourself with grace, even in small, everyday moments, they don't think about your pace. They think about your character. That kind of awareness is dignity in motion. And people feel it, whether they say so or not. Now, let's talk about humor. Laughter, at any age, is medicine. It lightens the mood. It connects us. It makes us human. But like everything else, humor evolves. And often younger folks won't tell you. They'll just stop including you in moments where they want to feel safe. But here's the good news. You don't have to stop being funny. In fact, the best kind of humor in later life is self-aware, lighthearted, and wise. A gentle joke about yourself, a silly observation about life, a story that makes people smile without putting anyone down, that's timeless. Humor that unites, not divides, is what people remember. And when they can laugh with you, not at someone else, they want to be around you more. Because in a world full of heaviness, being someone who brings joy without causing pain is a rare kind of gift. And finally, let's talk about a habit that may look like humility, but often feels like helplessness, pretending you can't do something when you actually can. We all slow down. Some tasks feel harder than they used to. Asking for help is not a weakness, it's wisdom. But over time, it's easy to slip into the habit of always asking, even for things we're still capable of. Maybe it starts with, "Can you just do it for me?" Or, "I'm not good with that stuff anymore." Or the classic, "You're young, you can figure it out." And here's what happens. People step in. They do it for you. But eventually, they begin to feel the weight. Not because they don't love you, but because it starts to feel like a responsibility, not a relationship. What they won't say is this: "I wish you'd try. I wish you'd believe in yourself a little more." Because the truth is, people admire effort far more than perfection. When your kids see you trying to use the remote, even if you press the wrong button, they smile with pride. When your grandkids watch you carry your own bag or ask how to use a new app, they don't see you as weak. They see you as strong, willing, engaged. And here's the beautiful thing. When you only ask for help when you truly need it, people feel honored to step in. They trust that you're not giving up. You're just being honest. That honesty builds deeper respect and deeper connection. So start small. Pick one thing you've been asking help with that you could maybe try on your own. Give yourself permission to fumble. Then feel the confidence build. Because age doesn't steal your capability. It just invites you to adapt. And when you keep showing up with strength and willingness, people notice. And they love you even more for it. Which brings us to something many don't realize they do, but almost everyone feels around them, always needing to be right. We've all earned a bit of certainty after decades of experience. You've seen enough to know what works and what doesn't. But when your opinion always has to win, when you correct people constantly, interrupt their stories, dismiss new ideas with a wave of the hand, it doesn't make people respect you more. It makes them tune out. Being right can feel powerful. But being kind is what leaves a legacy. The people we admire most in life aren't the ones who win every argument. They're the ones who listen thoughtfully, who reflect before they speak, who say, "That's interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way." That humility, that willingness to grow even in our later years, that's what people remember. Because at the end of the day, the impact you leave isn't about how correct you were. It's about how people felt in your presence. And when they feel heard, seen, accepted, and uplifted, they come closer. They stay longer. They call more. They trust you more. Not because you always had the right answer, but because you created space for them to find theirs. So now that we've walked through all 12 of these quiet habits, some surprising, some a little uncomfortable, I hope one thing is clear. None of this is about shame. This isn't about pointing fingers or criticizing the way you live. It's about something far more powerful. It's about awareness. And with awareness comes choice. The truth is, we all pick up blind spots as we move through life. That's not failure. That's being human. But what defines our character, especially in these later chapters, is what we do once we see those blind spots. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. In fact, it's the small shifts that make the biggest difference. A little more care with your appearance. A pause before speaking. A willingness to listen more than you explain. A moment of curiosity instead of criticism. These are simple gestures, but they ripple. They reshape how people experience you. And even more than that, they change how you experience yourself. Because you are not invisible. You are not done growing. You are not too old to evolve. You are still a source of strength, of light, of influence. But to hold on to that influence, to keep the warmth in your relationships alive, you have to keep showing up. With presence, with grace, with intention. And I want to tell you something you may not hear enough. It's not too late. It's not too late to reconnect, to repair, to soften, to shift the energy in a room simply by how you carry yourself. You still have that power. You always have. So as you move forward today, I invite you to pick just one habit that stood out to you, not to fix, but to notice, to gently pay attention to. Maybe it's how you speak. Maybe it's how you move. Maybe it's how often you say, I can't. Wherever you start, let it be rooted in self-respect, not pressure. And if something in this message resonated with you, I'd love to hear it. Share a thought or experience in the comments below. What habit surprised you the most, and what are you curious to shift? Your story might inspire someone else watching. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell so you don't miss future videos. We're here to walk this path with you, one honest, empowering step at a time. Thank you for spending your time here. Here's to showing up in the world with kindness, clarity, and quiet confidence at any age. And never forgetting, the way you live still matters. The way you treat others still matters. And you still matter. Always.